And at number 10, we unravel the scheme that was, ironically, too successful. A single tweet stream in the winter that tore down a multi-billion-dollar empire and set the world of crypto on a path to mass panic. Stay tuned, because the true architect wasn't just a handful of traders, but a phantom network operating out of a luxury penthouse. Number 10. Sam Bankman-Fried, the billion-dollar black box, the FTX collapse. The dates: FTX collapsed November 2022, indicted December 2022, convicted November 2023. The target: millions of global crypto investors and FTX exchange customers. The conspirator: Sam Bankman-Fried, SBF, founder of FTX and Alameda Research. The crypto market in 2021 was thick with the scent of complacency. Digital assets had enjoyed decades of exponential growth, bound by complex algorithms and decentralized ledgers. But beneath the surface, the market was a tinderbox, and the luxury compound in the Bahamas, where Sam Bankman-Fried lived and worked, was exactly where the spark would fall. The arrival of Sam Bankman-Fried, known universally by his initials SBF, was a calculated performance. He presented himself as the wunderkind of finance, a disheveled, altruistic billionaire who slept on a beanbag chair and prioritized effective altruism over personal wealth. He was the symbol of a trustworthy, future-forward financial system, and his competitors were determined to deliver a message: he was too good to be true. The plot was meticulously organized not by a shadowy group, but by an internal, secret agreement between FTX, the crypto exchange, and Alameda Research, the trading hedge fund SBF also controlled. This was not a student club. It was a powerful, militaristic organization operating within the same financial structure, led by SBF, known by the codename the King of Crypto. The goal was simple: to use billions of customer deposits to prop up Alameda's risky trades, destabilize competitors, and facilitate the acquisition of distressed assets. The actual execution was left to a handful of young, inexperienced, and highly devoted mathematicians and traders. The primary cell members were SBF and his closest associates, including Alameda CEO Caroline Ellison. They were given access to a secret backdoor in FTX's system, a hidden line of code known as the Korean fiat account that exempted Alameda from being liquidated on its massive loans, even when it lost customer funds. The plan was a coordinated corporate assault. As customer deposits flowed into FTX, they were secretly diverted to Alameda. The money was then used for lavish real estate, political donations, and high-risk investments. The collapse began not with a criminal investigation, but with a leak. A crucial balance sheet from Alameda Research was published by a rival financial news outlet, revealing that the majority of Alameda's assets were not liquid, established currency, but tokens, specifically the illiquid FTT token issued by FTX itself. The news was a catastrophic failure. The market, instead of ignoring the internal paper trail, accelerated away in panic toward a bank run. Changpeng Zhao, CZ, the head of rival exchange Binance, publicly announced that his firm would sell off all of its FTT holdings. The remaining confidence in FTX, including the public trust SBF had cultivated, dispersed instantly. The platform, dejected, started to hemorrhage funds. At the Bahamas headquarters, SBF was furious, demanding to know why the city was running away from his carefully constructed ecosystem. He decided to try and find a massive bailout to visit the confidence-starved market. This decision, a noble but arrogant deviation from the original plan, was the fatal error. The new reality was not properly communicated. Every investor, following the original logic of due diligence, saw the massive hole in the balance sheet. CZ, initially indicating he might acquire the failing exchange, pulled out after seeing the raw financials. And at that precise fateful moment, sitting outside the walls of the Bahamas compound, watching the collapse play out in real time, was the simple, terrifying truth. the money was gone. It was a staggering, almost impossible irony. SBF watched, frozen, as his entire multi-billion-dollar valuation stalled literally in front of his eyes. The money he had promised was not there. The first realization struck the customers. Their money was not secured, it was stolen. The second struck the regulators. This was outright wire fraud and conspiracy. The silence that followed the collapse was instantly replaced by the terrifying sound of millions of customers logging in and seeing a zero balance. SBF was instantly tackled by the media, nearly ruined before the Department of Justice could intervene. The fallout was swift and apocalyptic. The U.S. government, seeking to finally crush the lawless reputation of the crypto market, issued harsh indictments. SBF, backed only by his expensive legal team, refused to fully accept the terms. The complex network of digital alliances, investors backing SBF, customers trusting the platform, regulators watching silently, snapped taut. 5 weeks after the collapse, on December 13, 2022, SBF was arrested in the Bahamas. The gears of criminal prosecution had been set in motion. The simple scheme, intended to enrich a few high-level executives, instead led to billions in customer losses, a massive loss of faith in the digital economy, and an irrevocably altered 21st century. SBF was sentenced to 25 years in prison, just 18 months after the collapse he had engineered. SBF and his inner circle achieved their immediate goal of vast wealth, but the true cost was incalculable. It begs the question, how much longer could the aging social media systems survive the strain of coordinated data abuse? And what strange, hypnotic data firm was poisoning democracy from the inside? That answer, which involves a plot of algorithms, micro-targeting, and mass manipulation, awaits us later in this countdown. But first, if you find this dive into the digital age's darkest secrets compelling, take a moment to subscribe and comment below where you are watching from and tell us which of these 10 plots you find the most shocking. Number 9. Cambridge Analytica, the algorithm of influence, mass data harvesting. The date, revelations March 2018. Data collection began earlier. The target, millions of Facebook users globally and democratic processes. The conspirators, Cambridge Analytica, SCL Group, and specific political campaigns. Mark Zuckerberg's Facebook was, ironically, the most connection-minded social platform the world had seen in centuries. In the 2000s and 2010s, it had issued the promise of the global village, freeing over 1 billion users from geographical isolation, an act that earned him the moniker, the king of social media. It introduced self-expression, global communication, and community organizing. But to the radical elements of the political and data science intelligentsia, its openness was too vast, too tempting, and fundamentally exploitable. They wanted not connection, but control. They wanted the total dissolution of the concept of private thought and uninfluenced voting. This desire crystallized in the creation of Cambridge Analytica, a group defined by a single, terrifying conviction that the fastest way to ignite political change was to eliminate the symbolic guardrails of democracy, the uninfluenced voter. They had tried before, working for various political campaigns globally. The traditional methods of advertising were too cumbersome. They needed a direct, mobile, and guaranteed method to manipulate perception. They turned to the age of industrial influence, mass data harvesting. The final and fatal scheme was put into motion in the years leading up to 2016. The plan was a coordinated attack using a single, seemingly benign app, a personality quiz, strategically placed on the Facebook platform to harvest data from millions of unsuspecting users and their networks. The ringleader was Alexander Nix, the charismatic CEO of Cambridge Analytica, who coordinated the cell, leveraging the expertise of data scientist Dr. Alexander Kogan. The plan, however, was too insidious to stop. Kogan's company, Global Science Research, designed the app which required users to agree to its terms before accessing not just the user's own profile, but the data of all their connected friends. On the digital morning of the mid-2010s, users were returning to their feeds. Kogan's app, This Is Your Digital Life, stood on the corner of the attention economy, directing users to click with the simple promise of self-knowledge. As millions of clicks passed, the first wave of data was hurled into canned CA. The data ripped through the platform, harvesting not just demographic information, but psychological profiles, political leanings, and behavioral patterns. Crucially, Facebook's systems were unconcerned. Its executives pleaded with users to trust their privacy settings, and perhaps out of a sense of apathy or maybe sheer ignorance, users refused to fully understand the risk.
We insisted on getting out to share their results and confront the simple questions of the quiz. "Thank God I can finally find out what type of character I am," the user allegedly said to a nervous friend. At that moment, the true scope of the plot, which had been lurking near the data access points, saw its opportunity. CA was armed with the most powerful tool, the psychological profile. They rushed forward through the noise and the chaos, stepped within a few feet of the voter's mind, and hurled their final devastating charge: micro-targeted, fear-based political advertising. The influence was immense, silent. It tore into the voting public, who shifted instantly, their decisions manipulated, their emotions played upon. A witness described the scene as horrifying. The digital sphere was still conscious, though its ethics were shattered, its intentions ripped open, and its processes a mask of manipulation and agony. The final words, whispered as the information was being rushed to the campaign, were an instruction. Take this data, there, to win. The company died hours later, when the scandal broke in the global press, the digital floor stained with its data. The irony of the plot was terrible. CA had provided the fuel for anti-establishment sentiment, claiming to fight the elite while being the ultimate elite manipulators. The scandal that killed CA also killed the immediate prospect of total trust in digital platforms. In the aftermath, Facebook faced congressional hearings and billion-dollar fines. The plotters had intended the use of data to trigger massive, spontaneous political success. It did the opposite. Trust in big tech, the new establishment, abandoned the innocence of its early days and instituted a period of harsh scrutiny and counter-regulation, and solidified the absolute power of privacy laws. The manipulation was delayed, not avoided. Instead of the people's voice, CA delivered the world a new century of suspicion, setting the stage for the catastrophic loss of privacy that would follow in subsequent digital crises. Cambridge Analytica failed to maintain its anonymity, but the desire to use a fake persona to change the destiny of a nation's elite was a playbook used just a few years earlier, not by data scientists, but by a glamorous, social climbing fraudster in a high-rise Manhattan suite. Next, we journey to the reign of New York society, where a plot involving fake trusts, expensive hotels, and a single famous fake name aimed not just to steal from the rich, but to wipe out the entire concept of social authenticity in a single, audacious lie. Number 8. Anna Delvey Sorokin. The $67 million Mirage. The fake Heiress scam. The date. Posed as Heiress 2013 to 2017. Convicted April 25, 2019. The target. Manhattan's elite, major banks, luxury hotels, and high society friends. The catalyst. To fund a lavish lifestyle and secure loans for a private arts foundation. The conspirator. Anna Delvey Sorokin, a German-Russian immigrant. New York in the mid-2010s was a place defined by wealth and the hunger for status. The recession had left the middle class struggling, but the upper tiers of society were still subject to the siren call of old European money. When Anna Sorokin appeared on the scene, many elites hoped for a new, glamorous patron. They were easily captivated. The most extreme of these disillusioned social climbers was Anna Sorokin, an ambitious, charismatic, and fiercely confident woman. Sorokin was convinced that the only way to achieve wealth was through a dramatic, annihilating act of personal fraud. She didn't just want to steal money. She wanted to decapitate the entire social gatekeeping establishment, the bankers, the hotel managers, and the wealthy socialites, all at once. This was the genesis of the fake Heiress scam. Sorokin recruited no accomplices. She was the sole architect of her deception. Her most crucial tool was her persona, Anna Delvey. Delvey was not the ringleader, she was the plot. A fictional German heiress with a $67 million trust fund waiting for her 25th birthday, possessing the calm temperament required to stare down any nervous bank teller. The plot was terrifyingly simple. Live a life so lavish with such casual disregard for money that no one would dare question the source. In the spring of 2013, Sorokin secured a position in the social architecture of Manhattan. Her initial, laborious plan was to infiltrate the most exclusive parties and art shows. For months, she worked in secret, building a network of wealthy contacts, the sounds of her deception masked by the perpetual hum of downtown extravagance. The infiltration proved too slow and arduous, but then an opportunity arose. In 2016, Sorokin learned that she could use her manufactured persona to convince luxury hotels, such as the 11 Howard, to let her stay for weeks or months at a time, racking up massive bills she promised to wire transfer. It was an astonishing stroke of luck, the perfect strike location, already prepaid in essence by the appearance of wealth. She leased the best suites immediately. Over the next few months, Sorokin, using the alias Anna Delvey, began stockpiling her deadly cargo. Debt. She bounced checks, secured bank loans by forging documents, and persuaded friends to cover her travel costs. The weight of the debt was over $275,000, enough to fund a lifestyle of designer clothes, five-star travel, and private jets that could reduce her actual financial situation to dust and change the course of American high society in a single instant. The deception was set for 2017, the year she would secure the multi-million-dollar loan for the Anna Delvey Foundation. The conspirator had accounted for everything, except the human element, the exhaustion of the victims. As the debt approached its peak, some victims grew nervous about the constant delays in her promised wire transfers. Sorokin argued that the innocent must suffer with the guilty for the greater cause of her foundation, but others were not so easily placated. In the summer of 2017, the jig was up. The massive bills at the Beekman and the W hotels finally caught the attention of the NYPD. The final tipping point was when a former friend, Rachel Deloche Williams, was left with a $62,000 bill after a lavish trip to Morocco. Williams turned to the authorities. The first search was for a rich heiress and revealed nothing but a woman who was constantly dodging payments, but the DA was suspicious. Later that month, Sorokin was arrested in a sting operation. They found the stack of designer clothes, and standing guard over it, a nervous woman known as Anna Delvey. They moved the facade. Beneath it, they found the web of forged checks and bounced payments. Sorokin was quickly searched. In her pocket, they found the receipts and hotel keycards needed to expose the fraud. The plot was stopped literally hours before she could secure another major, potentially multi-million-dollar loan. Sorokin was immediately taken to Rikers Island for interrogation. She was defiant and proud, admitting her intent was to build an empire, if not by legitimate means. But facing a jury, Sorokin eventually revealed the names of her co-conspirators, which were non-existent. The victims, having fled the social scene upon hearing of Sorokin's capture, were left with the financial and psychological hangover of her charisma. Sorokin was convicted of grand larceny and theft of services in April 2019. The aftermath was profound. The plot did not overthrow the establishment. It sensationalized it. Sorokin was hailed as the anti-hero of the social media age, and the new scrutiny against vague, wealthy foreigners was even harsher. The failure of the scam cemented the dominance of a new type of celebrity, the criminal influencer. And every year, the fascination with Anna Delvey remains. Commemorating the moment, a fake heiress almost managed to charm her way to a fortune. Anna Delvey was a conspiracy designed by a desperate woman who had failed to see how secure her target's bank accounts truly were. Yet nearly a decade earlier, Another great figure of modern celebrity faced an equally deadly plot, hatched by a handsome young music star. But this plot did not fail because of an exposed debt, but because of an undercover journalist weaving a net of deception so tight his enemies walked straight into their own jail cells.
Number 7. Varsity Blues, the prestige play. College admissions bribery scandal. The date: exposed March 2019, sentences 2020 to 2023. The target: elite universities, the integrity of the admissions process, and the wealthy parents who participated. The catalyst: to artificially inflate the college prospects of underqualified children using illicit payments. The conspirator: William Rick Singer, a college admissions consultant. The world of elite American education in the late 2010s was thick with the scent of extreme parental ambition. Families had enjoyed decades of peace, bound by the cultural covenant that academic merit and personal achievement were the keys to the Ivy League. But beneath the surface, the system was a tinderbox of desperate advantage-seeking, and the dark network operated by Rick Singer was exactly where the spark of criminal activity would fall. The arrival of Rick Singer was a calculated infiltration. He presented himself as the ultimate fixer, a man who understood the system so intimately that he could hack the rules for a price. He was the symbol of a transactional approach to higher learning, and the wealthy class was determined to buy into the shortcut he sold. The plot was meticulously organized not by a shadowy admissions office, but by Singer himself, operating through his organization, the Key Worldwide Foundation, KWF. This was not a tutoring service, it was a powerful corporate enterprise built on a single terrifying conviction: that the fastest way to ignite acceptance into an elite school was to replace merit with money. The goal was simple: to sell fake athletic profiles, orchestrated entrance exam cheating, and direct bribes to university officials. The actual execution was left to a handful of desperate parents and a network of complicit coaches at top universities. They were given access to large payments, all based on the lie that this was merely an alternative admissions path. The plan was a coordinated infiltration of institutional trust. As payments flowed into KWF's accounts, the money was secretly diverted to bribe coaches like USC's Jovan Vavic or Stanford's John Vandemore, to mark the students as recruited athletes, even if they had never played the sport. The collapse began not with a campus protest, but with a federal investigation. The IRS flagged unusually large, structured donations to Singer's foundation, leading to a full-scale probe. The revelations were a catastrophic failure for those involved. The public, instead of admiring the parents' ambition, accelerated away in panic toward outrage. The wealthy participants, dejected, started to hemorrhage their public reputations. At their estates, the involved parents were furious, demanding to know why their investment in their children's future was being scrutinized. They decided to try and claim they were victims of Singer's manipulation. This decision, a desperate but arrogant deviation from the original conspiratorial silence, was the fatal error. The new reality was not properly communicated. Every university, following the original logic of academic integrity, saw the complete absence of legitimate qualifications. The Department of Justice, following the original logic of financial and institutional fraud, opened massive investigations. And at that precise, fateful moment, watching the indictments drop in March 2019, was the simple, terrifying truth: the system had been corrupted at the highest levels. It was a staggering, almost impossible coincidence. The parents watched, frozen, as their carefully constructed futures stalled literally in front of their eyes. The prestige they had purchased was revealed as a crime scene. The first realization struck the public. Their entire application system was compromised. The second struck the universities. Their admissions boards were infiltrated. The silence that followed the scandal was instantly replaced by the terrifying sound of federal prosecutors detailing wire transfers and doctored photographs. Key figures like actress Lori Loughlin were instantly tackled by the law, ruined before they could mount a coherent defense. The fallout was swift and legal. The U.S. government, seeking to finally crush the notion that wealth could buy admission to the nation's intellectual centers, issued harsh indictments. The participants, backed only by their expensive defense teams, faced a system demanding accountability. The complex network of parental ambition, students trusting their parents, parents trusting the fixer, investigators watching silently, snapped taut. Over the subsequent years, dozens of parents pleaded guilty or were convicted, with sentences ranging from probation to prison time. The gears of legal accountability had been set in motion. The simple plot, intended to secure an elite future, instead led to criminal records, massive reputational damage, and an irrevocably altered 21st century for college admissions. The Varsity Blues scheme was a conspiracy designed by wealthy people who failed to see how secure the system's ethics truly were. Yet this desire to exploit a vulnerable audience for illicit gain was a playbook used nearly simultaneously in the world of digital influence, where a family leveraged their own children for viral fame, crossing every line of decency. How could parents abuse their kids and broadcast it for millions of views? And what terrifying family vlogging channel was exposed for emotional and physical harm? That answer, which involves a plot of fake pranks, social services, and lost custody, awaits us later in this countdown. But first, if you find this dive into the betrayal of trust compelling, take a moment to subscribe and comment below your thoughts on whether money or fame is the more corrupting influence. Number 6. DaddyOFive. Mike and Heather Martin. The viral abuse. Child abuse or neglect on YouTube. The date: controversy and custody 2017. Guilty pleas and probation September 2017. The target: their 5 biological and adopted children, specifically their 2 youngest. The conspirators: Mike and Heather Martin, parents and operators of the DaddyOFive YouTube channel. The mid-2010s YouTube landscape was thick with the scent of ad revenue. Family vlogging channels had enjoyed years of peaceful monetization, bound by a seemingly benign concept of sharing life. But beneath the surface, the market was desperate for drama, and the suburban home of the Martin family was exactly where the line between entertainment and trauma would be crossed. The arrival of the DaddyOFive channel was a calculated grab for views. They presented themselves as a typical, fun-loving suburban family, prioritizing viral content above all else. They were the symbol of a new era of personal broadcasting, and the audience was determined to consume their content no matter the psychological cost. The plot was meticulously organized not by a shadowy group, but by the parents themselves. This was not a student club. It was a powerful, domestic organization operating within the YouTube monetization structure, led by Mike Martin. The goal was simple: to film pranks on their children that generated high views, high engagement, and thus high ad revenue. The actual execution was left to a handful of young, highly vulnerable victims, the children themselves. The primary cell members were Mike and Heather Martin, who directed the scenes. They were given access to cameras, editing software, and the full knowledge that their actions would generate money. The plan was a coordinated emotional assault. As the camera started rolling, the children were subjected to emotional distress, false accusations, and staged violence. The worst videos featured their 2 youngest children, Cody and Alex, who often reacted with genuine fear and tears. The public outcry began not with an investigation, but with a viral backlash. A video titled "iPhone Destroyed," showing Mike Martin falsely accusing Cody of damaging his phone, provoked a catastrophic failure in public tolerance. The boy was visibly distressed and crying uncontrollably. The YouTube community, instead of laughing, accelerated away in panic toward a mass denouncement. Philip DeFranco, a major news commentator, publicly highlighted the disturbing nature of the content. The remaining audience for DaddyOFive, including the public trust the Martins had cultivated, dispersed instantly. The platform, dejected, started to hemorrhage subscribers. At the Maryland home, the Martins were furious, demanding to know why the internet was turning on their harmless fun. They decided to try and release a defense video claiming the pranks were fake and that critics didn't understand their family. This decision, a desperate but arrogant deviation from the original conspiratorial silence, was the fatal error. The new reality was not properly communicated. Every viewer, following the original logic of simple empathy, saw
the visible pain. The defense video, instead of calming the storm, only fueled the belief that the parents were prioritizing money over their children's well-being. And at that precise, fateful moment, sitting outside the walls of their home, watching the collapse play out in real time, was the simple, terrifying truth. The children were being harmed on camera. It was a staggering, almost impossible coincidence. Mike and Heather watched, frozen, as their entire channel's viability stalled literally in front of their eyes. The money they had promised was now being threatened. The first realization struck the social services. This was not a prank, it was neglect. The second struck the courts. This was outright criminal behavior. The silence that followed the scandal was instantly replaced by the terrifying sound of the parents losing custody of 2 of their children. Mike and Heather were instantly tackled by the law, ruined before the state could intervene. The fallout was swift and legal. The U.S. government, seeking to finally crush the lawless reputation of family vlogging, issued charges. The Martins, backed only by their expensive legal team, refused to fully accept the terms initially. The complex network of family life, children trusting their parents, viewers trusting the content, social services watching silently, snapped taut. 5 months after the initial controversy, in September 2017, Mike and Heather Martin pleaded guilty to 2 counts of neglect. The gears of criminal prosecution had been set in motion. The simple plot, intended to generate high ad revenue, instead led to the children being removed from the home, criminal convictions, and an irrevocably altered 21st century for child content creators. The Martins were sentenced to 5 years of supervised probation, just months after the channel's peak. DaddyOFive achieved their immediate goal of viral fame, but the true cost was incalculable. It begs the question, how much longer could the aging medical industry survive the strain of coordinated corporate fraud? And what strange, hypnotic young CEO was promising a medical revolution while poisoning the financial markets from the inside? That answer, which involves a plot of fake science, private jets, and a voice lowered by manipulation, awaits us later in this countdown. But first, if you find this dive into the ethics of the internet compelling, take a moment to subscribe and comment below what is the biggest lesson you learned from the DaddyOFive case.
Number 5. Elizabeth Holmes, The Drop of Deception. Theranos fraud. The date: fraud exposed 2015-2016. Convicted January 2022. The target: elite investors, Walgreens, the U.S. military, and millions of future patients. The conspirator: Elizabeth Holmes, founder and CEO of Theranos. The early 2010s Silicon Valley was thick with the scent of ambition. Startups had enjoyed decades of peace, bound by the cultural covenant of fake it till you make it. But beneath the surface, the market was a tinderbox of overvaluation, and the Palo Alto office of Theranos was exactly where the spark would fall. The arrival of Elizabeth Holmes was a calculated affront. She presented herself as the female equivalent of Steve Jobs, a driven, hyper-focused CEO who wore black turtlenecks and spoke with a manufactured, unnaturally low voice. She was the symbol of revolutionary medical technology, and the world of venture capital was determined to deliver a message. She was the future. The plot was meticulously organized, not by a shadowy group, but by an internal secret agreement between Holmes and her COO, Ramesh Sunny Balwani. This was not a tech club. It was a powerful corporate organization operating within the Silicon Valley structure, led by Holmes. The goal was simple: to claim they had invented a machine, the Edison, that could run hundreds of common blood tests from a single pinprick of blood, destabilize the traditional lab industry, and facilitate massive investments and partnerships. The actual execution was left to a handful of young, inexperienced, and highly devoted employees who were sworn to secrecy. They were given access to a secret truth: the Edison machines didn't work. The tests that Theranos claimed to run on their proprietary device were in fact being run on modified, conventional commercial machines, sometimes with deliberately diluted samples. The plan was a coordinated corporate assault. As investment money flowed into Theranos, it was secretly used to keep the facade running, delaying the inevitable collapse. The company then secured a massive partnership with Walgreens to roll out Theranos wellness centers across the U.S. The collapse began not with a criminal investigation, but with a journalist. John Carreyrou of the Wall Street Journal started asking too many questions, leveraging the conscience of former Theranos employees. The revelations were a catastrophic failure. The investors, instead of trusting the charismatic CEO, accelerated away in panic toward due diligence. The company, dejected, started to hemorrhage its best employees. At the Theranos headquarters, Holmes was furious, demanding to know why the press was undermining her vision. She decided to try and muzzle the journalists and intimidate the whistleblowers. This decision, a desperate but arrogant deviation from the original plan, was the fatal error. The new reality was not properly communicated. Every investor, following the original logic of financial safety, saw the lack of validated data. The SEC, following the original logic of market stability, opened an investigation. And at that precise, fateful moment, sitting outside the walls of the corporate offices, watching the collapse play out in real time, was the simple, terrifying truth: the technology was fake. It was a staggering, almost impossible coincidence. Holmes watched, frozen, as her entire multi-billion-dollar valuation stalled literally in front of her eyes. The technology she had promised was not there. The first realization struck the investors. Their money was not secured, it was defrauded. The second struck the patients. Their test results were not reliable, they were potentially dangerous. The silence that followed the scandal was instantly replaced by the terrifying sound of the company voiding millions of test results. Holmes was instantly tackled by the law, ruined before the Department of Justice could intervene. The fallout was swift and legal. The U.S. government, seeking to finally crush the hype-over-substance culture of Silicon Valley, issued harsh indictments.
Holmes, backed only by her expensive legal team, refused to fully accept the terms. The complex network of corporate trust, investors trusting the founder, patients trusting the science, regulators watching silently, snapped taut. 5 years after the fraud was exposed, in January 2022, Elizabeth Holmes was convicted of 3 counts of wire fraud and 1 count of conspiracy to commit wire fraud. The gears of criminal prosecution had been set in motion. The simple plot, intended to enrich a few high-level executives, instead led to billions in investor losses, a massive loss of faith in disruptive tech, and an irrevocably altered 21st century for venture capital. Holmes was sentenced to 11 years and 3 months in prison, just years after being hailed as a genius. Elizabeth Holmes and her inner circle achieved their immediate goal of massive investment, but the true cost was incalculable. It begs the question, how much longer could the aging school admissions system survive the strain of coordinated parental ambition? And what strange hypnotic celebrity mother was paying bribes to poison the elite college application process from the inside? That answer, which involves a plot of fake rowing pictures, wire transfers, and lost celebrity endorsements, awaits us later in this countdown. But first, if you find this dive into the corporate lies compelling, take a moment to subscribe and comment below what is the most shocking revelation about Elizabeth Holmes and Theranos. Number 4. Belle Gibson, The Wellness Lie. Fake Cancer Influencer Scam. The date, lies admitted 2015, legal ruling, fines 2016, 2017. The target, millions of followers worldwide, readers of her book and users of her wellness app. The catalyst, to build a global brand based on a fabricated narrative of terminal illness survival. The conspirator, Belle Gibson, founder of the Whole Pantry. The early 2010s Australian wellness industry was thick with the scent of detoxification and clean living. Influencers had enjoyed years of unchecked growth, bound by the cultural covenant of personal testimony was the highest form of authority. But beneath the surface, the market was a tinderbox of unsubstantiated claims, and Belle Gibson's meticulously curated social feed was exactly where the spark of skepticism would fall. The arrival of Belle Gibson was a calculated performance. She presented herself as the ultimate survivor, a young woman who had allegedly cured her own terminal brain cancer through diet, holistic remedies, and sheer willpower. She was the symbol of alternative health triumph, and the global wellness community was determined to embrace her narrative, eager to believe in the power of mind over body. The plot was meticulously organized, not by a shadowy group, but by Gibson herself. This was not a legitimate health organization. This was a powerful, charismatic enterprise built on a single terrifying conviction: that the fastest way to ignite mass consumer spending was to leverage a life-or-death narrative. The goal was simple: to sell a wildly expensive lifestyle, a paid-for app, and a published cookbook to an audience desperate for a miracle cure. The actual execution was left to a handful of loyalists and a digital infrastructure that amplified her image. She was given access to publishing deals and major retail placement, all based on the lie that she was fighting for her life. The plan was a coordinated assault on consumer trust. As the followers flocked to the Whole Pantry app and cookbook, the revenue flowed in, funding a lavish life while the supposed cures were completely unsubstantiated. The company secured major partnerships with grocery chains, promising healthy living for all. The collapse began not with a criminal investigation, but with journalistic tenacity.
Nathan Bennett and journalists from The Age and The Sunday Age started asking too many logistical questions about her supposed medical history and treatments. The revelations were a catastrophic failure. The public, instead of trusting the visual evidence of health, accelerated away in panic toward demanding medical records. The brand, dejected, started to hemorrhage its retail partnerships. At her headquarters, Gibson was furious, demanding to know why the press was undermining her healing journey.
She decided to try and release vague, apologetic statements that claimed misunderstanding or clerical errors. This decision, a desperate but arrogant deviation from the original lie, was the fatal error. The new reality was not properly communicated. Every health authority, following the original logic of medical science, saw the lack of validated treatment protocols. The Victorian Department of Health, following the original logic of consumer protection, opened an investigation. And at that precise, fateful moment, watching the collapse play out in real time was the simple, terrifying truth. She never had cancer. It was a staggering, almost impossible irony. Gibson watched, frozen, as her entire carefully constructed empire stalled literally in front of her eyes. The miracle cure she had promised was based on nothing. The first realization struck the public. Their money was not secured. It was stolen through deception. The second struck the health system. Her promoted remedies were potentially dangerous due to false promises of efficacy. The silence that followed the scandal was instantly replaced by the terrifying sound of mandatory public apologies and massive fines. Gibson was instantly tackled by the regulators, ruined before the full extent of her global reach could be calculated. The fallout was swift and financial. The Victorian government, seeking to finally crush the lawless reputation of health influencers, issued harsh penalties. Gibson, backed only by her ambiguous public statements, faced a system that demanded proof. The complex network of consumer trust, followers trusting the influencer, health professionals needing verification, regulators watching silently, snapped taut. 2 years after her lies were first admitted, in 2017, the court ordered Gibson to pay back $410,000 in damages. The gears of legal accountability had been set in motion. The simple plot, intended to generate massive financial penalties, a massive loss of faith in online health advice, and an irrevocably altered 21st century for the digital wellness market. Belle Gibson failed to maintain the facade of a terminal patient, but the desire to use a public platform to build an entire fraudulent reality was a playbook used nearly simultaneously in the world of influencer marketing. A man who sold an impossible luxury experience that turned into a nightmare of mud, broken promises, and stranded celebrities. How could a simple music festival go so catastrophically wrong? And what strange, arrogant promoter was now facing years in federal prison? That answer, which involves a plot of fake infrastructure, celebrity desperation, and FEMA relief claims, awaits us later in this countdown. But first, if you find this dive into the depths of digital fraud compelling, take a moment to subscribe and comment below what is the most cynical marketing tactic you have ever seen used by an influencer. Number 3. Billy McFarland, the paradise that never was. Fyre Festival fraud. The date? Event April-May 2017, sentenced October 11, 2018. The target? High-paying ticket holders, including influencers, celebrities, and the general public. The catalyst? To create a viral luxury music festival that funded a series of unrelated financial schemes. The conspirator? Billy McFarland, founder of Fyre Media. The music festival circuit in the mid-2010s was thick with the scent of exclusivity and curated celebrity experience. Promoters had enjoyed years of growth, bound by the cultural covenant that high-priced tickets guaranteed a high-end, once-in-a-lifetime event. But beneath the surface,
The market was a tinderbox of overpromising, and the Bahamian island intended for Fyre Festival was exactly where the chaos would fall. The arrival of Billy McFarland was a calculated performance. He presented himself as the young, visionary entrepreneur, a man who could deliver luxury and glamour simply by tapping into the right social media networks. He was the symbol of a new, frictionless economy, and the global public, especially influencers, were determined to buy into the fantasy he sold. The plot was meticulously organized not by a legitimate event production team, but by McFarland himself, operating through Fyre Media. This was not a music festival. It was a powerful, deceptive enterprise built on a single, terrifying conviction that digital hype alone could substitute for actual infrastructure. The goal was simple: to sell tickets, book talent, and use the pre-sales to fund his other failing ventures, with the festival itself being the grand, temporary distraction. The actual execution was left to a handful of overwhelmed local contractors and volunteers. They were given access to enormous sums of money from ticket sales, all based on the lie that the infrastructure, the villas, the gourmet chefs, the famous musical acts, was already secured. The plan was a coordinated social media assault. As tickets, some costing up to $100,000, flowed into the Fyre platform, the money was secretly diverted to fund McFarland's previous debts and lavish spending, postponing the necessary construction. The collapse began, not with a cancellation notice, but with the arrival of the attendees. When thousands of influencers and wealthy customers landed on Great Exuma in April 2017, they found not luxury tents, but FEMA disaster relief shelters. The promised villas were empty lots. The gourmet food was cheese sandwiches served in styrofoam containers. The public reaction, instead of being polite confusion, accelerated away in panic toward viral horror. The attendees, documenting the abject failure in real time, broadcast the reality to millions. The organizers, dejected, started hemorrhaging celebrity endorsements. At the site, McFarland was reportedly unreachable or making panicked, contradictory calls. He decided to try and blame local vendors or bad weather. This decision, a desperate but arrogant deviation from the initial plan, was the fatal error. The new reality was not properly communicated. Every attendee, following the original logic of a paid contract, saw the complete absence of the promised product. The media, following the original logic of consumer protection, opened massive investigations. And at that precise, fateful moment, watching the collapse play out in real time, was the simple, terrifying truth. There was no festival. It was a staggering, almost impossible coincidence. McFarland watched, frozen, as his entire highly publicized event stalled literally in front of his eyes. The paradise he had promised was a disaster zone. The first realization struck the attendees. Their luxury vacation was a scam. The second struck the federal investigators. This was a pattern of fraud spanning years. The silence that followed the disaster was instantly replaced by the terrifying sound of federal agents closing in. McFarland was instantly tackled by the law, ruined before the scope of his Ponzi scheme could be fully mapped out. The fallout was swift and legal. The U.S. government, seeking to finally crush the lawless reputation of the viral marketing world, issued harsh indictments for wire fraud. McFarland, backed only by his legal team, refused to fully accept the terms until forced by evidence. The complex network of influencer trust, fans trusting the promoters, celebrities lending their image, regulators watching silently, snapped taut. 2 years after the event, in October 2018, Billy McFarland was sentenced to 6 years in federal prison. The gears of criminal prosecution had been set in motion. The simple plot, intended to generate massive hype and cover past debts, instead led to massive restitution, a massive loss of faith in influencer-driven events,
and an irrevocably altered 21st century for experiential marketing. Billy McFarland failed to deliver a single night of luxury, but the desire to use a public persona to live a life of manufactured wealth was a playbook used decades earlier, not by festival promoters, but by a privileged young woman who forged documents and maxed out credit cards to pretend she was an heiress in Manhattan. How could someone con the elite for years without detection? And what terrifying, manipulative game was Anna Delvey playing? That answer, which involves a plot of forged bank statements, stolen identities, and luxury hotel bills, awaits us later in this countdown. But first, if you find this dive into the era of the fake experience compelling, take a moment to subscribe and comment below what is the most embarrassing social media purchase you have ever made, and let us know if you followed the Fyre Festival saga.
Number 1. Andrew Tate, the persona and the Purgatory, human trafficking allegations. The date: arrest/raids December 2022, 2023, charges and ongoing legal actions through 2023-2025. The target: young men globally and vulnerable women allegedly held under his control. The catalyst: to build a massive online empire based on toxic masculinity, wealth display, and extremist views, allegedly funding criminal enterprises. The conspirator: Andrew Tate and his brother Tristan Tate, alongside alleged associates. The online sphere of the early 2020s was thick with the scent of reaction against progressive social norms. Influencers had enjoyed years of unchecked growth, bound by the cultural covenant that controversial opinions generated unprecedented engagement. But beneath the surface, the market was a tinderbox of extremism, and the opulent Romanian compounds of Andrew Tate were exactly where the fuse of international legal action would be lit. The arrival of Andrew Tate was a calculated, loud performance. He presented himself as the ultimate alpha male, a man who had mastered wealth, women, and combat, dispensing advice that was both provocative and intoxicating to his core audience. He was the symbol of a new, unapologetic masculinity, and millions of young men were determined to buy into the lifestyle and ideology he sold. The plot, as alleged by the Romanian prosecutors, was meticulously organized not by a shadowy political group, but by the Tate brothers themselves. This was not just an online persona. It was allegedly a powerful, organized enterprise built on a single, terrifying conviction: that the fastest way to ignite financial and social dominance was through exploiting the vulnerable for profit and control. The goal was simple: to leverage massive online fame and wealth display to mask alleged human trafficking, rape, and organized crime activities. The actual execution, according to the investigation, involved a carefully managed environment where young women were allegedly lured to Romania under false pretenses. They were given access to luxury, all based on the lie that this was a desirable life, while allegedly being held against their will. The plan was a coordinated psychological and physical assault on trust and freedom. As Tate's online brand exploded, generating hundreds of millions of views across platforms like TikTok and YouTube, the revenue flowed in, funding the lifestyle that allegedly concealed the criminal operation. The collapse began not with a direct raid, but with the prior scrutiny from social media platforms, which had already banned Tate for violating hate speech policies, and the persistence of investigative journalists in Romania. The revelations were a catastrophic failure for the global narrative surrounding Tate. The public, instead of ignoring the dark rumors, accelerated away in panic toward demanding justice. The Tate empire, dejected, started to hemorrhage their mainstream platform access. At their compounds, the brothers tried to claim they were being persecuted by corrupt government officials for their success. This decision, a desperate but arrogant deviation from the original goal of untouchability, was the fatal error. The new reality was not properly communicated.
Every international body, following the original logic of human rights, saw the complete absence of due process for the alleged victims. The Romanian judiciary, following the original logic of criminal law, moved to formalize the charges. And at that precise, fateful moment, watching the legal proceedings unfold from house arrest or custody was the simple, terrifying truth. The digital persona did not grant legal immunity. It was a staggering, almost impossible irony. Tate watched frozen as his carefully constructed image stalled literally in front of his eyes. The prestige he had purchased was revealed to be a lie.
The first realization struck the public. The toxic content was merely the marketing for real-world crimes. The second struck the digital world. The most powerful online personalities could still be held accountable by established law enforcement. The silence that followed the initial legal actions was instantly replaced by the terrifying sound of prosecutors filing formal indictments. Andrew and Tristan Tate were immediately targeted by international legal action, ruined before a final verdict could be reached. The fallout was swift and restrictive. The global community, seeking to finally crush the notion that online influence could shield criminality, demanded accountability. The brothers, backed only by their defense attorneys, faced a system that prioritized the rule of law. The complex network of fan loyalty, followers trusting the persona, women allegedly suffering the consequences, international law enforcement watching silently, snapped taut. The ongoing legal battle continues to be one of the highest-profile tests of online free speech versus criminal conduct. The simple plot, intended to establish a life of total dominance, instead led to years of legal limbo, a massive loss of mainstream platform access, and an irrevocably altered 21st century for the concept of the online guru. Andrew Tate's alleged crimes showed that the digital mask could hide the darkest human motivations. But this willingness to exploit and manipulate people for massive financial gain was not unique to online figures. It echoes the ultimate betrayal, the CEO who promised to revolutionize a foundational human process, not for fame, but for billions in stolen equity. This final subject is the ultimate cautionary tale of unchecked power in a system built on trust. We uncover the most shocking betrayal of modern enterprise, where a billionaire promised a medical miracle but delivered only ruin. Notable mention: Elizabeth Holmes, Sam Bankman-Fried, The Ultimate Convergence, Silicon Valley's dual collapse. The narrative of modern enterprise is the story of two colossal collapses: the biotech dream that died on the operating table, and the crypto empire that vaporized overnight. Both were led by figures hailed as saviors. Both promised paradigm shifts, and both ended in federal prison. This final subject is not one person, but the systemic failure that allowed two such massive deceptions to flourish almost simultaneously. The targets: investors, regulators, and the public faith in decentralized finance and transformative technology. The conspirators: Elizabeth Holmes and Sam Bankman-Fried at FTX. The cultural context of the 2010s and early 2020s was thick with the scent of disruption. The Valley had enjoyed years of peace, bound by the covenant that revolutionary ideas justified massive valuations. But beneath the surface, the entire ecosystem was a tinderbox of speculative money and unchecked founder worship. The gleaming headquarters of Theranos and the tropical offices of FTX were the epicenters where the sparks of criminal fraud were allowed to catch fire. The arrival of both Holmes and SBF was a calculated performance of genius. Holmes presented the infallible medical visionary. SBF presented the philanthropic coder king.
They were symbols of a new, untethered form of capitalism, and the global investment community was determined to buy into the myth, eager for the next multi-billion-dollar unicorn. The plots were meticulously organized not by outside enemies, but by the founders themselves, leveraging the very structures designed for investment and growth. These were powerful corporate organizations operating within the venture capital system, led by figures whose charisma shielded their actions. The goal was simple: to use the language of innovation to obscure outright fraud, lying about the viability of technology in one case, and lying about the security of customer assets in the other, to facilitate massive personal enrichment. The execution was left to the corporate compliance teams, who were either complicit or too intimidated to speak up. They were given access to vast amounts of capital, all based on the lie that the necessary guardrails were in place. The plans were coordinated assaults on institutional trust. As money flowed into Theranos, it funded an elaborate facade of scientific progress. As money flowed into FTX, it funded an elaborate facade of trading security. In both cases, when the systems were finally stressed, they revealed only hollow shells. The collapses began not with external attacks, but with internal whistleblowers and the inevitable scrutiny of financial forensics. Carry you for Theranos, anonymous leaks for FTX. The revelations were catastrophic failures. Investors, instead of trusting the visionary leader, accelerated away in panic toward liquidating assets. Regulators, dejected, started the painful process of calculating the total losses. At their respective leadership posts, both Holmes and SBF fought the investigations, claiming miscommunication, regulatory overreach, or simple error. This decision, the agontic belief they could outsmart the law, was the fatal error. The new reality was not properly communicated. Every auditor, following the original logic of fiduciary duty, saw the missing billions and the fabricated data. The Department of Justice, following the original logic of massive white-collar crime, moved to prosecute. And at that precise, fateful moment, watching the final indictments drop, was the simple, terrifying truth. The cult of the young founder had blinded the world. It was a staggering, almost impossible irony. Both leaders watched, frozen, as their meticulously built empires stalled literally in front of their eyes. The future they promised was an illusion built on lies. The first realization struck the markets. Investor confidence was vaporized. The second struck the public. The entire digital and technological landscape required a complete, painful reevaluation of trust. The silence that followed the final verdicts was instantly replaced by the terrifying sound of the gavel hitting the wood. Both figures were tackled by the law, ruined before the final scope of their damage could be calculated. The fallout was swift and systemic. The U.S. government, seeking to finally crush the notion that genius excused criminality, issued harsh sentences. Holmes received 11 years. SBF received 25 years. The complex network of Silicon Valley investment, VCs trusting the founder, employees trusting the mission, regulators watching silently, snapped taut. The legacy of these two cases is the definitive endpoint of this countdown. They prove that the digital age did not eliminate old crimes. It simply gave them a larger, faster, and more devastating stage. We have journeyed through 10 modern betrayals, from the influencer who sold luxury tents, to the parents who bought college access, to the CEO who sold fake science, and finally, to the digital architects who stole billions. Each case shares a common denominator: the exploitation of trust, amplified by the speed and scale of modern media. What do these architects of deceit, McFarland, Sorokin, Holmes, and SBF and the others teach us? They teach us that the most valuable commodity in the 21st century isn't data or oil, it's belief. When that belief is weaponized, the resulting fallout is far more destructive than any bomb in a city square. The lesson is hard-won. The performance may be flawless, the lighting perfect, the narrative compelling, but if the foundation is built on a lie, the collapse is not a matter of if, but only when. Where in the world are you watching this exposé on betrayal and fraud from? Let us know in the comments below. And if this deep dive into the darker side of aspiration has informed or shocked you, please remember to subscribe so you never miss the next history or scandal that demands to be uncovered. The price of vigilance is attention.